fucking deep as deep. Probably like Pat Sharp and Andy Peters fighting against each other or something on a Saturday morning with Gordon the golfer as the referee or something.
I'll pay for that. I'll pay for that.
Class heroes, proper fellas, underdogs, who trained their asses off, probably full of juice like at the time. Trained their ass off, worked really hard, and they fight and they win, and in the end they win, and it's a good story. And I said, you've got people now who are identifying as washing machines. Chill with Mike Tyson. I've had a good night with Mike Tyson. The argument is, you won't speak to me because I haven't boxed. No, it's not that. It's not that at all. There's loads of people who haven't boxed whose opinions I respect massively because they've been around boxing all their life. But if you haven't boxed, you haven't been in a boxing gym, you haven't been near a professional boxing ring, don't tell me how to throw a punch.
So superb. Paul, thanks for coming in, mate. It's always a pleasure as always. Give me a bit of background to sort of how you started, how you got on, your first fights.
A while ago, started a long time ago now. Started when I was a kid, obviously in the amateurs, and I think you're seeing nowadays people who don't really go through the amateur traditional route and they end up in professional boxing. Like Fabio Wardley starts off in white collar. Anthony Joshua started boxing at 18 apparently, and then ends up in the following Olympics. Tom Stalker from Liverpool, he told me a story once. It's a great story, and I'm not belittling him saying this. He tells it with a bit of pride. He was washing dishes in the Adelphi. It was his job at the time. He was getting through into a bit of bother and a bit of trouble. He watched the Commonwealth Games with my brother Stephen boxing. And he went to the following games with Stephen. He watched Stephen in Melbourne, and he went to the following Commonwealth Games
as a fighter
4 years later with Callum in Delhi and won gold. And he wasn't even boxing, and he just started boxing then. There's loads of stories about it, but the usual traditional route is always you start in the amateurs, you work your way through, you try and win a couple of national titles or a national title, and then you turn professional if you're good enough. But it's been a bit skewed and a bit twisted recently with like kids are turning pro as if like, I'll just turn pro. Like for me and for the old traditionalists, let's say it's a privilege to turn professional. You've got to be good enough. You've got to pay your dues. You've got to be able to hold your own, earn your stripes and stand alongside all your peers rather than just thinking, I'll just go and join them. Like they've worked really hard and paid the dues to be there, and you've got to do the same to get there. But recently,
why do you think that is?
Probably a bit of social media, a bit of. We're getting to see a lot more now. When I was a kid coming up, unless you had a video of a fighter, you couldn't see them. Unless I had the VHS tape what's being sent over to me from America or somewhere, or of a top fighter, you couldn't just go on YouTube, and kids don't understand how probably blessed they are and lucky they are to be able to just type anyone's name in and all the fights will come up, or the training, or whatever content they want to show you can see. And it's great for like in this day and age, people shouldn't struggle with watching other footage of fighters, footballers, other sports, especially boxing, and you can then mimic, copy, try and do more of what they do well, what they don't do well, or see their training methods. But
what's the actual process of becoming pro?
You have to go, and I'm literally just doing it now for the girl that I'm managing. You've got to go to apply to the Boxing Board Control, fill your form in, send it off with obviously your payment, your license fee, the first thing they want. Then your passport photos, your old medical card of what you did. You have a medical card in the amateurs, and it's a booklet with all your fights, and every time you fight, that gets given in. They check that you've had your annual medical, and then they write the name and the date of the fight down, so it's a record as well, what you keep in that book.
Is there like a prerequisite in terms of must you have had so many fights? Or
yeah, so you have to have done something. If you haven't had any amateur career, they'll send inspectors out to watch you sparring in the gym and to make sure that you're capable enough of fighting. But usually if you've boxed at a high level, it's a given that you're going to get your license provided and you pass your medicals, which are pretty stringent, the medical procedures. You need a brain scan every year. You need MRI and MRA scans on your brain. You need the hepatitis B booster or jab. You need an HIV test, a full body medical and eye test every year. Some of the brain scans, they send you to a neuropsychologist to do a different one as well. And I don't know whether, I'm saying it a bit tongue-in-cheek, it's a great method, but I don't know whether if you're not as bright as the others, you might get sent there. Whether you've had a few too many fights, you might get sent there. If you're not, I don't know if it's got anything to do with education either. I'm not sure, because I'm sure clever people with degrees have been sent there, and people who haven't been to school have been sent there. So I'm sure it's the same, but it's just an extra check to make sure that you're capable of boxing, obviously, because your brain's not meant to be punched. But we've always sort of wanted to be boxers since we were kids. All the Rocky films on in the house, and my dad was always watching boxing at home. So it was never really the football route for me especially, because I was terrible. Liam was decent, so he wanted to go the footy route, but always going to be boxing. I think it was never going to, like, I grew up loving Mike Tyson and wanting to be Mike Tyson and watching his fights and that when I was a kid, so I think it was inevitable with the gym being over the road that I was always going to go there to start.
Yeah, and that's how you sort of fell into it. Yeah, because your dad was a boxer, wasn't he, as well?
He had a little go, yeah. He always tells us a story. He had 3 amateur fights. He won 2 and lost 1. I think the one he lost, he said he went to watch his mate up in Orwell Park on a dinner show. So if you go, the dinner shows, you sit down, you'd have a meal, you'd have your drink, and then the boxer comes on after you've had your meal, and you're watching, you all bet on the fighters and that. He went to watch, and there was a lad there that had pulled out or something, and his coach had his medical card, and he got his kit, and he ended up boxing on the same night. But he was a doorman, my dad. He was always on the doors, always getting up to a bit of mischief. I think I wouldn't be doing him a disservice saying that. Like, he's changed now. He's calm and mellow now, but he was a bit wild when he was younger, and just always mad on the boxing. He used to love watching the fights, and a couple of his mates were pros, and he'd go and watch them. But he always loved the boxing, so I think it was inevitable we were going to get into boxing.
Yeah.
So once turning pro, how do you kind of actually effectively promote yourself to get on a card, and how does it kind of look before you get to big time? What's the process then?
It's a good question, because you shouldn't have to promote yourself. And I'm not just saying that because we were all successful amateurs as such, but there should be a bit of a buzz about you turning professional. The promoters should be wanting to sign you. I say to me lad now, he's 18, he's national champion, he's boxed for England as a junior, and he's won a national title, under 19s national title basically. So he hasn't done it in the seniors yet, and he's got to, and he knows he's got to before he turns pro. I say to him, you're the promoters, I'm coming to this table, I've got to put something on that table for you to pay me for. There's my ABA title, there's my Commonwealth silver medal what I had, there's 4 of the national titles as a junior, and I've boxed for England plenty of times. I've got a good pro style, what do you want to give me for it? That's what I had to do with Frank Warren. I went down to Frank Warren. Andy Olligan always told me, he's former British champion from the Rotunda, he said, Frank's the best, go with Frank. And I wish I was trained by Billy Graham, who trained Ricky Hatton from the start, so go with him as well, and that's exactly what I did. So I called around to get a phone call with Billy Graham, asked him would he be interested in training me, and he loved Andy and was a friend of Andy's. He said, come up, let's have a look at you. Now at the time, Hatton was the most exciting fighter in the country. It was Hatton Calzaghe. They were flying at the time, and it was like, come and see me and have a few sessions. So I went up, and not even a few, just come up and see. After one session, he agreed to train me, but then you have to go down to Frank Warren. So I went down, I knew a couple of other lads were turning pro who hadn't got a Commonwealth silver but had won the ABAs, and I knew they'd been offered around $2,500 a fight, which isn't much, but kids nowadays are still not getting that. That was 2003. So I didn't want to accept that, I wanted a bit more. So he made me an offer, and I said no, the first one. I said no, I know what you've given a few other lads. He said alright, he said $3,000 to fight then, and I agreed straight away. I had 6 fights in my first year, but as I said, I had something that they wanted as well, and I was exciting. And tickets wise, you know what the Scousers are like on a Ricky Hatton show. I was selling loads of ringside. I sold 300 odd tickets my first fight, probably 30 odd grand's worth of tickets. So, and he was paying me 3 and the opponent probably 1,500 quid. So they were making money off me anyway. So you've got to have something for the promoter. If you're turning pro and you can't really sell tickets, unfortunately nowadays it's a lot on tickets. And I've had fighters who haven't been signed by promoters
because they can't sell tickets.
Because they can't sell tickets, or because they're not ticket sellers. So therefore, if a promoter looks at it now and thinks, well, if I put you on my show, I'm gonna have to pay you $3,000. Well, I'm gonna have to pay your opponent $3,000. I'm gonna have to pay you probably the same, or if not a bit more if there's anything. So already I'm probably $7,000 down. If you can't sell 100 tickets at an average price of £70 a ticket, I'm going to lose money. So why would they put you on the show? And that's unfortunately how it is. Which
do you think that's affecting the quality of boxers coming through?
Yeah. Because there's a lot of good boxers who, I'm trying to give examples of fighters who probably weren't signed at the start, but eventually got signed and then went on to do well and win titles. You're not your typical Fabio Wally, let's say. You know, he didn't have the traditional route, but if he hadn't been snapped up and signed, he might have packed in after 5 fights thinking it's a bit too hard for me to do. But they stick at it. So if they do stick at it, they'll get it in the end, but at the start, the promoters are probably just thinking that's not worth it. Whereas the good fighters, and then eventually they'll win the titles and they'll get signed. But it's hard then when you're coming through because you need a job. Like you've got to work. And I used to always say this, like when I was a kid, people that you're a boxer, they just assume you're a millionaire, or they assume like you've got plenty, and you'll watch two kids on the telly knocking shite out of each other and probably getting $4,000 each. And the average fan on the couch, you think they'll probably get $400,000 each or something. You just don't understand how boxing works.
I think boxing as well. I've always said it, and I'm pretty your testament to that is that it's just such a tough sport, especially when you're at the peak of your fitness. I mean, the what people don't see is the camps you've got to go through, the sacrifices you've got to make, and you get to the point where, as you say, you've got your first 10 fights and you're in $2-3 a fight. Yeah. But you sacrifice so much.
For me, I remember how it was because I had a good sponsor who always looked after me, and it might have been £100 a week, £150 a week or something. You don't realise how much that helps when you're living by yourself in a flat and you've got training camps and food coming up, and that's at the very start. But then sponsorship helps massively, and fighters are so grateful for it. And a lot of companies will probably price themselves out of it by assuming that that's going to cost me a couple of $100,000, whereas $30,000 you can sponsor that kid for a year. They'd be delighted with that $2,500 a month coming to them. But most of the time what you'd find, and I remember that I was in this situation a couple of times when I moved out from my Mars, and it's like, I've only got a little bit left there. I can put my diesel in the car to go to the gym and back every day because my gym was in Hyde in Denton. Or you can go and buy a bit of food, what you might need for the rest of the week, and then you get some meals in the gym, you pay your bill in the gym, get your meals. But usually when you fight at the start for the fighter who's turning pro without like being on mega bucks or Olympians or that, you're probably borrowing a bit of money to then get you through the camp, and then you fight and you pay that off, and then you manage your rest and you pay that off, and you... That's how it is for a fair few people, but there's a lot of people who aren't probably getting enough when they fight, and they've got to go and work full time. So then they're working, they're going to the gym in the morning, running, going to work, coming home, going to the gym again, and it's a full-time job on top of another full-time job. And when they fight, the money's not special because they're not full-time professionals where they can give everything they've got. Exactly. Although there's no such thing in boxing as semi-pro. And for all the people out there who say the semi-pro to the girls, they're lying to you because it's a load of bollocks. It's like being pregnant. There's nothing semi about it. You're a professional or you're not. And if you're not a professional, you're an amateur. And an amateur's good, no problem. It's a good standard to be at. But when you're professional, you can't just be half-hearted, half in. You've got to be all in, and if you're all in but you still have to go and work to pay the bills or to keep the roof or the lights on, I totally sympathise because that's what has to happen. But if you're lucky, you can get a sponsor what can subsidise it, but even then it's still tough because sometimes it's not enough to get by and pay your bills and pay your training camps and stretching sessions in a yoga gym. You have to pay that membership. Fitness and strength conditioning in a different gym, you got to pay that membership. Physio once a week to get rid of the injuries and the niggles that you've had during camp. Just diesel to and from the gym. They all add up.
And living as well.
Just living generally normal, but your food shopping then, as bad as it is, and it's never it's always baffled me. If you want to eat well and eat healthy, cost you a fortune. It does. The cheapest, easiest option is to go and buy the junk food and the food that's cheap,
working frozen against you in the ring.
But it's not going to help you as a fighter. And you need to really put 100% in it. But it costs you more money. So then when you're having to find more money, you take your eye off your training because you're concentrating on just trying to get by. And it is tough. And I'm not playing the violin because the money at the very, very top level dwarfs most of the other sports. And it's frightening some of the numbers we're seeing now with the weekend just gone. The Usyk, Dubois, Usyk probably got $125 million for that fight, and Dubois probably got 50 million quid, $70 odd million himself. That's like the pinnacle, that's like the top level, but that's the 1%, and it doesn't filter down. I think that was a $200 million pot on the weekend, if I'm not mistaken, and the fighters will have got about 190 of it, maybe 195, and the other 5 million went to the undercard, and all the other fighters on the bill.
Is that the whole split? Yeah,
probably how it works. I don't know.
But
I don't know.
More than likely.
Is that usual?
I'm having a guess. Not usually that little, but the paces are not normally that big. That they're massive paces. That's what Saudi and Riyadh season's doing at the moment. But it's the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world, so the money should be good for it.
Of course.
But the undercard fighters, it doesn't seem to trickle itself down or balance itself out. But that's the same in football over here, isn't it? It's the same in a lot of the sports. The top 1% get it. Absolutely. That's how it is. So that's why kids will strive and try their best to be the 1%.
Do you subscribe into you kind of lacking the motivation or the heart to kind of get in the ring when you're getting that kind of money?
It's a good question, because I always used to say about Joshua, like, he deserves so much credit. If I fought anyone for £50 million, you'd struggle getting me back in the gym. And it's not that I'd be going out taking drugs or drinking or whatever. I'd just probably lose the hunger, because that's top of the mountain stuff for me. 50 million quid would change my life and my family's life. We wouldn't have to worry about anything anymore financially. You can do the things you want to do, see the world. Why would you want to go and lock yourself back in the gym to try and go again to get the same amount, obviously, which is unbelievable money? That's why I think some of these fighters are special. There was a video of Usyk after the weekend, and it's like, how do you keep your motivation? He's like, I don't have motivation, I have discipline. And our Callum reposted it, and he's the same. Callum's well off, and he's in a good position through boxing. And he doesn't have to fight financially, but he still wants to achieve his goals, and his goals are still there to be achieved, to be a 2-weight world champion. But Usyk has been undisputed world champion, and has just won it back again.
Yeah.
But the amount of money that he made against Fury and Joshua alone was more than enough for him and his family and his grandkids never to have to worry. But then he got in again and done it again, and he will go and do it again if he has to, because that's the job, and he's disciplined to do it. As I say a lot of there's an old saying, I think it was Marvin Hagler, it's hard to get out of bed when you're wearing silk pyjamas. And it's so true, and I imagine it is, and that motivation to get up and go and train, so to be able to do that, that's probably what separates them. That's probably why.
Why is it undisputed?
That's probably why a lot of us are in the 1%. They are in the 1%, because to get out of bed and go and do that again when you've earned and made that much money, he's probably got more than half the Hollywood film stars out there. But looking at him, he fights that he's got nothing.
Because I would imagine that a large element of why you got in the ring in the first place was to put food on the table.
Fight up to poverty.
Yeah.
A lot of fighters are like that. By poverty, I don't mean like completely on your ass and destitute and nothing, but a lot of us, you know, us included, you didn't have everything growing up. We always found it. My mum and dad always found it for us, and we always got it, and we were never hungry. We were always fed. We were always had a roof over our head. It was a rough estate, and it was great. And but you can't play the violin. It wasn't bad whatsoever. I wouldn't change a thing. It was great. But it's sort of, you weren't growing up where, you know, your mum and dad had 2 or 3 cars on the pad and all that, or you big 5-bedroom detached houses. It was none of that. You know, we were on a council estate, and most of the people that you find in boxing who do great things come from that. You won't really ever find a boxer who came from money, who's probably going to do anything on the world scene. You see it recently with Sid Conor Bennett, Chris Eubank. They're doing really well. They've made millions themselves. Neither of them have won a world title. They probably won't win a world title. But they deserve credit as well for doing that, because I said this about Eubank once, he's probably been dropped off at school in a Bentley most days. If his dad was taken to school, or the big massive wagon was probably worth £1 million back then as well. You know, Conor Ben, his dad made a few quid and probably lived a nice life. I think he lived in Spain for a while as well. So to have that motivation and to still get up and want to choose the fight, I do admire that. But generally, the rule is, you know, you don't really see many well-to-do fighters.
Would you say that's the tipping point then? Do you think that's kind of just what separates them from being able to kind of climb to that?
Possibly, but there's also kids who've come through, say Dubois on the weekend. Like that's a perfect opportunity for you to he's obviously cemented his financial career with that one fight alone. But you either want to be a fighter and be in there, or you don't. And it looked to me like he didn't. And you're fighting for the biggest prize in sport, the heavyweight championship of the world. And he stayed on his knee for the 10 count. And that doesn't sit right with me. With this other kids screaming at the telly who would give anything to be in his position, because they started out probably like him, not with much, really working hard, dedicating his life to something. But then you get there and he does that, and like that's frustrating to a lot of people.
So you think he quit?
I do, yeah. I think he did.
Twice.
I think he did in all 3 fights. I think he did in the 3 of them that he's lost. That's just my opinion. I'm just saying what I see, and I can't help but say it because it's what I see and it's my opinion. I've got no problem with people who disagree with it, but I can break it down any way you want and go through it all. And part of that reason is where there's people arguing on social media going, well, I would have done the same. I'm like, I know, that's why you're not a fighter. That's why there's the 1% of people in the world who are fighters, who fellas on the couch and fighters like me admire and respect so much, because you can do something that they can't. I love watching footballers and the skill and the ability of them at the top level. I love watching, because I could never do it in a million years. That's why they're playing football professionally. That's why they've got that dream job, and that they've got that life that I went to watch Oasis and watching them on stage, think like, imagine writing that song and having everyone sing it back to you and being like, they're known all over the world, and their words and the lyrics, that the song live forever, that'll live on forever because of what they've created. Imagine being able to do that. They're the 1%, they can do that, they have done that. So if you're in a position like Dubois to be in that 1% and to have the chance to win the best prize in sport, and you stay on your knee for the 10 count, it doesn't sit right with most people like me.
So you don't believe in living to fight another day?
No, there is another day. Rocky Apollo saying there is no tomorrow. Okay. There is no this is your chance. You might never fight again. You could get hit by a bus tomorrow, never mind, never fight again. You know, you might not be able to fight again tomorrow. You might not have that hunger, you might not have that desire, you might age overnight, you just never know. But you've got the opportunity now, it's there. There won't be another day after this if you lose. That's how a lot of fighters, bringing it back to what we're talking about financially and career-wise and making plans and that, you'll struggle to find a fighter with a plan B. The minute you make a plan B, plan A's, plan A's not going to work.
Yeah, you're defeated already, aren't you?
Exactly.
You got to burn the boats. You want to storm an island, you burn the boats. That's boxing.
You can argue boxing was the plan B to begin with, because if you could be doing something else, you know what I mean, you wouldn't have got in the ring with someone.
I'm retired. I haven't done anything to make money outside of boxing since I've retired. And you've got to try and find things that you know, that you're an expert at, that you're really qualified in to be able to make a few bob out of so you can pay the bills at home, because that's what you've learned for the last 25, 30 years. And you can't go and start a new company up and
start
employing bricklayers or I want to be a football agent. I don't know enough about football to be a football agent, so you've got to use what you know best to try and make an income from. But then where's the income? It's either commentary, it's either managing, it's either saying. I'm doing all three of them. It's either doing whatever you can, what you qualified at to do to try and create an income, or to try and carry on continuing to make money out of the sport that you give your life to.
So where do you say the business of boxing is going to now? Because as you know, traditionally it's been your big time promoters that have been pushing and putting on cards for everyone. But as you know, with things kind of going onto streaming platforms and them trying to kind of phase out pay-per-view, how do you see that working out for not necessarily the boxers at the top, but more the guys in that kind of middle range? And
it could be tricky for the boxers at the lower end, definitely, because the money that's coming in from Riyadh season and His Excellency and everyone that's involved in boxing at the very top level, they want the best fights. They want the best fighters fighting the best. That's not really good for the prospects coming through, unless they get to that level where they're good enough to go on them shows as a challenger. The undercard fighters for the Canelo show, I manage a fighter as well, and we hope he's going to be on it. A Saudi fighter, but the undercard he said is going to be a lot of prospects coming through, which could be great because they're putting enough money into the main fight. So it could be great for all them prospects. But realistically, if he puts it just all prospects, they're looking at that top fight. They're years away from being at that level. So is it motivation for them to get on that, or is it just a chance to be on that show so you get to sit ringside and watch it after you've fought, and you can say to all your friends and family, like I've done, I boxed on that show. Because the gulf between them is huge.
Is that down to quality or lack of talent?
Time possibly, because if you're just starting out or you've not had the opportunity to be at the table with the best, you don't really know.
You don't really know.
Yeah.
It's a mixture of it all, I think. In the UFC, they have their model. And I've said this for a while, I don't think you will see a UFC champion be the champion for probably longer than 10 fights. Be nearly impossible to, because they're fighting number one every time.
Every single time, yeah.
That's tough, and even if you do that, your longevity is going to go, because you're fighting the best in wars, in brutal fights every time. It's not just the fight, it's the camps for the fights.
So, and they fight when they tell you as well. Yeah.
And the money's not as good, that's proven, as boxing, obviously. So you're technically not being paid what them fights are worth or what's in the pot. But with the boxing, you can have a voluntary, then you're mandatory, then a voluntary and another voluntary, and then maybe a mandatory, and there's 4 different belts. The money that's come in and the new regime that's sort of come in, they want the best fighting the best now. So even if you're signed with Frank Warren, you're signed with Eddie Hearn, you would never fight in the old regime. Now, His Excellency sitting saying, well, you come and fight each other, I'll pay you, and you get a fee out of it anyway. So the big fights going happen, and everyone's working together, and everyone's fine, they're all getting on, and it's great for boxing. But the young prospects coming through, they might not get the chances on them shows, because when people are coming to the shows, they want to put a bumper show on. They don't want you just going home watching the main event. They want you having 5 good fights on the undercard as well. So you're really happy with what you've paid your money for, because ultimately that's what it's about. The fans paying money that's what's going to be paying the fighters as well. And if you leave happy, then you're going to go back to the next one, and you're going to want to. Anthony Josh used to do it. The old format for pay-per-view shows where everything goes in the pot. Promoter takes his cut, television networks take their cut, then the running costs of the show, and then what's left gets split between the fighters, but they pay the undercard. So if you're fighting him on a pay-per-view and you're the number 1 and 2 in the world, you can maybe have 3 fighters on there, and you can pick 3 fighters on there.
Okay.
But it's coming out of your money. So Anthony Josh used to have brilliant fighters on his undercard, and I think his attitude, from what I heard on the grapevine, was always, if I win in 1 round, I want them to leave knowing that there's been a good show on and a good undercard, so the fans are happy and they're entertained, which is great because it's coming technically out of their pockets in the end. But I think with this new format, they want them really good fights on. So the young prospects who have to fight against someone, he's only had 4 fights, he has to fight someone who's probably lost 20 fights himself and won 15 or something, because that's how he's going to learn, and that's what you should be doing at that level. They don't want them fights on them cards now. They want the young prospects against each other. So therefore there mightn't be a chance to get to the very top because you're not getting the right build-up like you did. Like Floyd Mayweather never really fought no one, Ricky Hatton never really fought no one in his first 10 fights. You learn on you learn the ropes and you learn on the job. There mightn't be that opportunity to learn now with the way this is happening. Plus, fans and promoters want results quick.
Do you think it also blocks these young players, because you take the heavyweight division, for instance, and you have the same fighters fighting over and over again? You know, there's boxers can only fight so much. You know, in a year, you know, you 2 or 3 years, 3 fights tops at that top level.
Maybe 4, depending
on what level you're at. But it's restricting these younger fighters coming through, because you look at that heavyweight division, and it's kind of a block on those fighters coming through and fighting at the top level, because you've got 4 or 5 of them who just holding all the titles and fighting each other because of this
division as well. There's 20 good heavyweights in Britain. There's 20. The top 20 is a decent set of rankings in the heavyweight division in Britain and in the world. But as you say, if one fella's got all 4 belts at the top, then the only way to win a world title is through him.
That's right. Yeah. So
you've then got to beat everyone else on the way up who wants a shot at him also. And it's a big line.
Comes UFC.
Yeah,
basically
like UFC.
Yeah.
So the top fella will sit there. Now, Usyk, I think, will beat anyone in the heavyweight division, which he already has, obviously. But even if you just get your shot at him, you're obviously going to be paid well. Maybe not on the likes of Dubois money, but you'll be paid well.
Yeah.
But you're a long way from getting that shot because there's 10 names before you, and the 10 names are good. So then you try and fight one of them 10 names, and you shouldn't be fighting one of them at this stage. You should probably be fighting people a couple of places above you, or 2 or 3 places above you. But you got to jump up and fight someone 7 or 8 places above you who you may not be ready for you.
Do you think that model's broken then, in the sense of what they're trying to do now? I know we mentioned the UFC model, which is obviously slightly different, but is there sort of a hybrid model between the two that kind of works?
I don't know if it's broken. I don't know. So if you're at the top level and you're getting invited on these shows and you're fighting, you're buzzing, you're absolutely delighted. But if you're just a young pro turning pro now who's got ambitions of getting to the top, then it's going to take you a while getting there, because at the moment, it's not that they're not interested in the lower fighters who are just turning pro. It's more. I think it's more of a case of, okay, come and see us when you're ready. You know, when you're ready, we'll pick you and you can fight and have the opportunity on the big stage.
But get ready first.
But the big stage is there. That's all the big stage with all the lights and all the singing and dancing, and they're the big stages, and they're great. But you've got to earn your way on them and try and get on the smaller shows. And I've said this to a couple of people. I mentioned it recently with Jake Paul and that company MVP, and they're signing a lot of champions and they're doing brilliant for boxing, considering it come from Jake Paul, who's an influencer, YouTuber, not a fighter. He is a fighter now, and he's a professional fighter, and he's beat a former world champion in boxing, and he's doing really well for himself, and he's exploited another industry and he's making a lot of money out of it, but he's getting a lot of success in it, and he's also getting a lot of fame out of it. And but now he's giving back to the fighters, and he's signing some of the best female fighters in the world, a lot of them from Britain, and they're getting opportunities and paydays that they may never have had. And they're fighting in Madison Square Garden, topping the bill. You can't knock that. You've got to praise that and give them credit for that. But the way boxing is going at the minute, they're being given an opportunity, and they're taking it with both hands, and they're fighting out of the skin, and they're looking really good, and he's putting win bonuses on for them, and he's creating opportunities that weren't there for these type of fighters. But they're still going to need other little smaller shows here and there to fight on, to stay busy, because they can't fight just twice a year on the big shows. And the big shows to put on, you can probably only put 2 of them a year on because they're massive. There's a lot of money needed and included, and if you know, if you can put a couple of smaller fight shows on in, let's say, the typical arena size in the UK, 10,000 seater, like the Liverpool Arena, or some of the smaller ones around the country in Sheffield or in them cities, not the MEM, which is 20, and the O2, which is 20.
Yeah.
Then these fighters get a chance to fight on a smaller scale, still televised, still shown all around the world, but for a bit less money involved, so people aren't really making a loss, and the girls are still, and the fight, and the men obviously are still getting an opportunity to fight. But unless you have them smaller shows for the fighters that are coming through, they're not really going to be getting seen or enough opportunities to fight to be spotted by the top people to be brought on the shows.
Do you think that will come
spotted,
though?
You have to fight, don't you?
Because that is kind of like how the UFC's run, where they will have smaller shows in different countries, never mind cities. In a build-up to, you will kind of land the Las Vegas card or the London card or something like that.
It will happen. That is how it happens in boxing as well. There's still obviously small hall shows, and not small hall shows. Small hall shows in boxing is typically not televised. It's typically a small hall promoter with a lot of fighters on it selling tickets for the purses. But there's also obviously shows where, let's say, a British title will top the bill, and then there's 3 or 4 decent fights underneath that, and then 3 or 4 young prospects coming through. They're your typical old Friday fight night on Sky Sports shows, let's say. And the good value for money, good entertainment on telly when you're watching them. Good fights. I think if you match 2 very, very good fighters together, 2 average fighters together, as long as their ability levels are similar, you're going to get a good fight. So it's entertaining watching it. It's interesting watching it. I think if all those continue to happen, then the opportunity is to get to the big show by being spotted on them shows. But you'll have to obviously perform when you get your opportunity. But sometimes the argument is from the promoters is, well, look, if you fight on that one, I can only pay you that. But if you go on that one, I can pay you what you're worth, or the Saudi one, or when there's a bit more of an injection of money involved. So again, ultimately, it comes back to money, whether the money's there, whether the fighter wants to fight on a smaller show or wait it out and try and get on the big show.
What do you think about the advent? We touched on Jake Paul and YouTube boxing as is. What's your thoughts on that? Obviously, being misfits.
I've given this example a lot. Like, for me, I think one of them's going to get hurt eventually because they're not boxers. Some of them shouldn't be in the ring when you look at them. Some of them are absolutely awful, but some of them are decent. Some of them are not bad. But with Jake Paul, if I started doing what he did and I created a YouTube channel and started getting all these subscribers and I not manipulated that industry as such, but I exploited that industry as in I ventured over into there and I made the channel and I became successful and I started making $100,000 a month and start becoming, known all over the world with endorsement deals and start making a fortune out of it. You'd shake my hand and say congratulations.
Yeah, for sure.
And I would feel accomplished. He's come over to boxing, he's exploiting boxing, he's making a lot of money out of boxing, and I think he's living a dream. How many people, you might have thought it yourselves, probably
goes from Disney TV to running. I
wouldn't mind getting in the ring and imagine getting in the ring and having a boxing fight in front of everyone. Some people dream of that. I know a lot of footballers who watch boxing, they'd love to do it. I watch football and I'd love to do that, but I'm absolutely terrible, and they probably think the same about boxing. But that's probably why they respect boxers so much and why we respect footballers and other sports, because they can't do it and they probably wish they could, and same as I do with football. I'd love nothing more to score a winning goal at Cop Ends at Anfield. It'd be unbelievable feeling. I'm sure they see the boxers stand at the end of the fight with their Andres after a good hour fight thinking, I'd love to do that. He's probably thought that in his time, I'd love to be a boxer. He is now, he's doing it, and he's going about it in his usual way, the way he is. He's a bit loud and he gets in your face, but it creates content and it creates numbers and views and bums on seats, whatever you want to call it. But he's giving back now. That's what's important. He's giving fighters opportunities. He's looking after female fighters especially, and him and his partner, the keys to the company, they're paying the fighters what they're worth and what they would probably not make elsewhere. And the fighting at Madison Square Garden, like Katie Taylor and Serrano. I'm buzzing for Katie Taylor because she's won all 3 fights, and rightly so. But Serrano's an unbelievable fighter as well, and the 3 of them are so evenly matched. All the fights would be that close, but they're being paid life-changing amounts of money and what they're worth, and they're selling Madison Square Garden out, and they're showing that the female fighting and female boxers are strong enough to do the shows by themselves. But as I say, they need that opportunity, and that I hate the saying, this is cheesy as ever, but they need the lift send them back down for them, and they have, and that's what he's done, Jake Paul. So you can only credit him. But the YouTube boxing as such, I'm not against it or for it. The misfit stuff, it's as long as they're evenly matched, I'm fine with it. It's when they're overmatched, something bad will happen if they are overmatched continually. If they're evenly matched, I'm all for it. As long as listen, they're not saying professional boxers. They're not licensed in professional boxing, so there is that distance between it. But some of them are good. Some of them are coming from MMA. Darren Till, obviously, he's really good at it. Yeah. There's a few of them who are decent, even who've never been in boxing. They're just YouTubers. But I give a good example once of when we were kids, probably like Pat Sharp and Andy Peters fighting against each other or something on a Saturday morning with Gordon the golfer as the referee.
I'd pay for that.
You'd have watched it, wouldn't you? I'd have watched that, the tune and watched it when I was a kid because we could go down the road with different stars from the 80s, but I'm not sleeping now.
I like that one. That's better.
Is it too late for that guy?
Yeah,
say Jimmy Savile or Gary Glitter fight, you know what I mean?
Maybe we should start our own YouTube channel. 80s TV presenters.
Yeah. Well, imagine when you were kids seeing that, you'd have tuned in and watched it, wouldn't you? That's what they're doing.
Definitely do that.
Non-swars.
Well,
Non-swars.
On a serious note, though, I walked in. On a serious note, I went to one of the Misfit shows, and it was with Darren Till. And I walked in, and 8 o'clock at night, 2 hours before the main event, there's 20,000 kids in the seats, people, adults and kids in the seats, singing and screaming, swinging light things around what they were selling, and they had their asses in the seats, and it was full. You go to a normal fight night with a world title show.
Well, we were there on Saturday. We were there on Saturday at Wembley, and literally 10 minutes before the main event, it's filled up.
Yeah, you're the promoter sitting there, like this sold out straight away, and they're in the seats waiting, and it's a total new audience, and it's a new audience who just. As Stephen said, he did it. I was with my lad, and he's like, "Dad, can I get a picture with him, please?" I'm like, "Yeah, lad, who is it?" I didn't know what it was. He's like, "He's got about 20 million followers on social media. He's a content creator, and he's like a bit of a comedian online, and he does like pranks and jokes." I was like, "Go on, lad, no problem. Ask him. Just ask him nicely and see if he will." And he took a picture with him. I didn't have a clue. It wasn't. And he showed me his profile, and it's like the followers are through the roof, millions and millions of followers.
Do you think
must be making a fortune as well through the social media, through that monetization?
Do you think that sort of boxing is then transpiring into additional audiences for professional boxing because of opening up the world of boxing?
Good, it's a good point, because obviously if you're watching Jake Paul boxing, then all of a sudden there's a real fight on next week. Well, you've watched a bit of it, so you know what it's like. So you probably get the bug, you know, and then you'll end up watching that. If they're really good, you don't have to stick in that format, the YouTube type. They can go to the local boxing gym and get around the traditional route. And if anyone wants to try any form of boxing, I'm all for it, because it's great for you. But yeah, it's a different audience, and it's a different way of looking at it. And I remember speaking with one of the promoters when I was trying to get another fighter signed, another former athlete signed up to Misfits, and the first thing he asked me wasn't his age, wasn't his weight, wasn't can he fight, wasn't how he looked, it was how many followers he's got. I was like, that I'm completely against that from being traditional strict boxing background. Like, couldn't care how many followers you got. Can you fight or not? That's the most important thing, not for them. And they put the name, the user counted name into a system, and their system give an algorithm on how many things he generates for their company, and that's how they deal with it. And it's crazy.
You think it's
a strange way of the times now, but that's how it is.
Yeah. It's just like traditional, where you were saying that the promoter's saying, well, you know, he's a good fighter and that, but he doesn't. But what can he sell?
Are you going to cost me money, or are you going to make me money? And ultimately, that's what it is.
That's what it is. It's a business at the end of the day.
Andy, ask Paul if he's ever met Mike Tyson.
Oh yeah.
So
a little birdie tells me you may have met Mike Tyson.
I have. I've met him a few times though.
What's your best story about Mike?
Nah, I'm not sure.
The one you can tell.
I'm not sure if I can tell it.
I know the one you can't tell.
I've chilled with Mike Tyson. I've had a good night with Mike Tyson, and it was a proper pinch yourself thing.
Was he? You mentioned before, but was he a hero growing up?
Yeah.
Again, into boxing.
My mum woke me up when he knocked Frank Bruno out, and that was 1989. I was 6, nearly 7, and she woke me up and said Tyson won about 5:30 in the morning. I was like, yes, and I went back to sleep. I was made up. I think the first time I seen him, it's weird. It probably like, I don't know. Probably a young lad seeing a pair of tits for the first time. So I seen him, and the way he fought, and the way he did things, and
you got a hard on.
Give me I had a bit of fear watching him.
Going in a little bit. I
had a little I had a little bit of fear watching him because he was frightening him on. He did the old saying, he was ferocious. Like
his early YouTube clips of him, I mean, he was just a beast.
I was watching this on like a replay from BBC, and then we had a VHS of him, and my dad bought us a VHS video called Mike Tyson's Greatest Hits. And it was all about, that's what it's called. And the music off it was brilliant. All cheesy 80s music, like off ITV Fight Night, Saturday Fight Night, and it was brilliant. They had a video montage of him with Chris Rea working on it. It's a boss song, and it just as soon as the first beat comes, you see him connecting with some fella's head, and he bounces off the floor, and I was just like glued to the telly watching, like this is great, like proper 80s kid. I had this conversation with my lad the other day. I was sending him reels on Instagram. I'm sitting in the garden with a cup of tea for night, sending in reels, laughing my head off, thinking I'm dead funny, and he's probably just thinking, Dad, fuck off, leave me alone. But I sent him one of the Rocky 4 montage, and I sent him, I was like, that's what you pussies haven't got nowadays, lad. These were our heroes growing up, like proper working class heroes, proper fellas, underdogs, who trained their asses off, probably full of juice like at the time. Trained their ass off, worked really hard, and they fight and they win, and in the end they win, and it's a good story. And I said, and you've got people now who are identifying as washing machines. That's what's wrong with this generation. And he's laughing his head off. And he's sending me, but I'm sending like all the Rocky training montages, and all he remembers when we were kids, that's all we had on. And every day we had Rocky on, we had Rambo on, we had Predator, we had all the action films on.
Knight Rider.
All everything. And all the what's it called, the antagonists, or the whatever you call the protagonists, whatever they are, the main characters in it. Were all like someone you wanted to be when you were older.
I mean,
maybe not Knight Rider.
Knight Rider,
but the rest of them, you probably,
But Rocky was quality. I mean, I watched Rocky 3 last night. It was on.
Rocky probably got us into boxing more than boxing did, more than maybe Mike Tyson. But Mike Tyson, first time I met him, I absolutely shit myself. He was like a drugged lion being brought round to meet people, and he just looked like he was going to snap any second. and he had a lot of weight on him at the time. He had this shirt on, like big sweat patches on the back, like I've got now, where it was roasting. And he's just being brought around to meet people, and you could just tell he was pissed off and going to snap. So it was in Ricky Hatton's dressing room. I've got a good picture of it, which I'll get you and show you. It's Oscar De La Hoya, Ricky Hatton, Matthew Macklin, me, Mike Tyson, and there was another one there at the time. And Hatton, after the fight, with his cap on, shorts on, standing talking, and it's a great picture, all of us together. And I was buzzing like I got to meet him. The second time he come to Liverpool, and he was doing a talk in the Devonshire, and my mate was putting the night on. And on these dinner talks, it's great because people like me get to like sit next to Mike Tyson on it, but he's like, they always put the main guest on, Mike Tyson, Nigel Benn, Chris Eubank, whoever the old famous star is, and then they get like the local champions or the local boxers to sit either side, and then the promoter, and then the top tables there, and then everyone else is having a dinner on their tables. And he said, I've got Mike Tyson coming over, Smig. He said, I'd like you to sit next to him if you're up for it. So I'm like, I'm right about it. Are you messing? He's like, no. He said, come down. So when he was there, he said, come an hour earlier before everyone gets there. Then they're all going to come in and get the pictures, took the professional ones, and they go and sit down, and they print the pictures, don't they? And bring them over to you, and he can sign them for you. So I was just sat in the room with him talking, and thought, I've got to do something here to sort of engage in a conversation with him, because I might never get the opportunity again. I live that way. I might never get the opportunity. So if we can go somewhere, golf, you can do something, do it. You never know what might happen. And Culver was a little reminder to it. And I remember thinking, what can I do here? I raced pigeons when I was a kid. Again, a little bit down to him, but a lot down to where we're from in Kirkdale, and a lot of kids where we were used to sag school, go and grab pigeons and then build a little rabbit hutch in the garden out of a few old crates, and we used to break the corby fences off and rub the wood off all the fences, and then build the pigeon loft out of it. So I had a pigeon loft in the garden. So at the time I was racing pigeons, so I just got my phone out and went, what you reckon on then? And that was it. He just bang, grabbed me by the back, pulled me over like a fucking ragdoll, and started going, show me that one. He's like, loved it when he was telling me about all his pigeon lofts. I thought, this is great, this. I'm just sitting for an hour talking about pigeons and then boxing with Mike Tyson. It was unbelievable. And then since I've been going to Saudi, I've met him a few times over there, because he's always invited as a guest. And just, unbelievable sort of life that he's had. And I can't say that I would have wanted it, if you know what I mean. I can't say that if anyone could swap places with me. He always says that, like, people think they could live in my shoes, they couldn't live in my shoes. And I remember being in Saudi, and we were sitting having a coffee in the day, and he asked the fellow who was looking after him, we doing anything today? And he's like, no. He's like, I want to do something, make something happen for me, please. And then he went, okay, and half an hour later, right, you're going on a helicopter tomorrow, you're going to go and circle and like go and see the sights and all that. There's not a street anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world that he can walk without being recognised.
Yeah.
Like he's a megastar, and I'm not bothered about the fame and stuff, but he's there because of what he's done in his life, in his boxing, how good he was, and he's got one of the most recognisable faces in the world. I don't know if I could live that way, and I think that's why he's probably snapped a few times. A lot of people will talk to him, think they're his best mate. You know, I probably did the first time because you just that happy.
People
have been like wishing all their life just to meet him and say hello to him. I'm lucky that I have done it, but from his perspective, like he can't go anywhere. He's one of the most recognisable faces on the planet.
Three
Used to
Michaels.
say the Michaels, there you go,
Three
beat me
Michaels.
to it.
Yeah.
Jackson, Jordan, Tyson, and he definitely is there. But growing up, I loved him. I was a weirdo. He was
I thought you were going to say Barrymore.
Well, I've got pictures again. I'll get them out for you and show them so you can show them on here. I was boxing in Uzbekistan in 2000. I was 17, and I used to fight in plain black shorts, plain black boots. I had the Tyson hat on, Tyson woolly hat on. I lost my front tooth when I was 15, so I had no tooth like him as well. I didn't mean it, like, but yeah, it just happened. Some little dickhead stole it on me when I was a kid. So I've got a picture in the house of a hat with Tyson on, with my tooth missing, with my arms out, and I've got black shorts and black boots on. Yeah, I didn't really fight like him either. I swung punches like him. I tried to, but I didn't fight that way. I was a bit more of a boxer than
he was just an aggressive monster.
Phenomenal. He was unbelievable. I've never seen anything like him, and I don't think we ever will. And, Moses Atoma had a chance to break his record this year if he'd have fought for the world title, and I didn't want him to. And I like him. I think he's a nice lad, but I thought I don't want that record to go. I don't think it will ever be broken. Yeah. The youngest ever heavyweight champion. He's 21 and a bit, I think, or 20, or no, 21, I think. I don't think that'll ever be done. And Moses Atoma passed it, but you got to beat Usyk for that, so he's a bit too late for that. But he's a frightening prospect as well, Atoma. But I don't think we'll ever see anyone like Mike Tyson. We had this conversation, weirdly enough, yesterday with our Stephen. Saturday night, I went to watch the fight with my next door neighbours. We were watching the fight and talking about Mike Tyson. And me, Stephen and Callum were there, and we got asked, do you think Mike Tyson is like the best heavyweight? And I say, in my opinion, he would have beaten any heavyweight that's ever boxed. They may have beat him as well, but him on his day, at his peak, in his prime,
nothing like him.
He would have, in my opinion, he would have beat Ali, he would have beat Lennox Lewis, he would have beat Holyfield. Holyfield was probably the closest one that would have come to beating him in his prime, I believe. But I believe he would have beaten any heavyweight in his time. If they fought 5 times, maybe they'd win 1 or 2, but I think he'd beat them all. And I don't know how you would have stopped him in his prime. But in his prime, he was obviously getting up to no good, what we didn't realise. And he was taking a lot of drugs when he was fighting, which, again, we didn't realise. So imagine he lived a clean life and had all the opportunities that the other fighters have without having the demons or the problems that he did. He might have been the best ever, but he was still had an unbelievable career.
Phenomenal, wasn't he? Absolutely phenomenal.
It's a different era back then as well, where you couldn't really dock fighters either. It's like you got told to fight, and that was the end of it.
Different era as well. Imagine social media being around with him when he was younger. he probably wouldn't have got far, would he? If the camera phone. He can't move now without the camera phone being around you. Imagine, like, you already battered the fella on the plane recently, didn't you, put the camera on. Imagine him in his heyday in the 80s, mid to late 80s, partying with phones around. Well, most of the people don't
want to be around, really, would they? Yeah. No. I think that's in reality. So what is it you do now? So you do some managing, coaching?
Yeah, I manage a couple of fighters. I've got a young lad from Liverpool, Steve Clark. He's doing really well. I've always helped out with Ziad Al-Miyuf, a Saudi fighter. He was co-managed by a woman in America, and he asked me would I get involved with him to help him because a bit of experience over this side, which I agreed to. And he's managed by 258 Andy Joshua's management company and myself at the moment.
Many Saudi fighters here, so
no, you
professional
don't.
level.
You don't, and he's a lovely lad, and I really want to help him and guide him and do the best I can by him, just because of how good a person he is as well. He's a diamond, and he's a family friend now. You know, my kids love him, my wife the same. When I go over there and see his family, you know, they're really good people, and he's such a nice lad. He's trained by Buddy McGirt. That's how the link up happened, because Buddy trains me, Buddy Callum. So he was over in Liverpool with us training Zizzo. I was driving one day, I'd got to talk to him, got to know him, and I'm driving down by Dale Street with my wife and kids in the car, and I looked, and he's all just walking, or with his headphones in, talking on FaceTime, right through the middle of Liverpool. I didn't have the heart to tell him, like, fucking be careful, you don't get robbed. He's just walking, dead happy-go-lucky, not a care in the world, just talking on his phone. I said, there's also we stopped talking, and he'd asked me would I be interested in like managing him and helping him and guiding his career, which I'd love to, obviously, because he's a nice lad. But I've been asked to train a fighter recently, Jack Power. He's unbeaten, he's 5-0. He's a decent lad, and he's a lovely lad as well. I've got a lot of time for him, and I said, like, to my wife, who I speak to the most, obviously, as most of us do, like, I want to get into the training, but I'm waiting for the right opportunity in the right moment. And my right moment was waiting until we get a gym built, or we get a gym between us all, and we have our own gym and our own set. And she just said the same thing, like, what are you waiting for? You know, if you can help the lad now, help him. There's loads of gyms you can train in. And my old mate John Gillies, he's got Four Corners gym in Liverpool up by Long Lane. It's one of the best gyms I've been in. Massive, brilliant setup. Downstairs is a UFC gym, MMA gym, and it's chocker full of lads who are in the UFC and the PFL, is it? And a couple of others, all great lads. For like some of the hardest people in probably the city, in the country, you walk in there, everyone's as nice as pie. You couldn't meet anyone, you know, nicer when you're in there. Everyone's letting on to each other, talking, respectful. And the boxing gym's on the second floor with the weights set up. It's great. It's a boss setup. And we were in the rotunda. It was getting a bit busy. There's a lot of fighters in the rotunda. And John just said, I'd love to have you in here, so why don't you come in? And once he said that, I thought, you know what, I might as well do it. I want to do it. I want to train fighters, and without being big-headed, I think I've got a lot to offer, and I've learned a lot of these, got a lot of experience to pass on. Been around a lot of fights, and I was actually explaining to Jack, like, you know, this will be the first time I've been on top in the corner as such. I've helped with Zizzo, because Buddy had to leave his fight around early to go back to the dressing room, because Callum was fighting straight after Zizzo in Saudi. So I was doing the last round for Zizzo. I said to Jack, like, you'll be the first fighter that I've actually been on top in the corner with as a full trainer. But I've been in the corner with Billy Graham, I've been in the corner with Joe Gallagher, I've been in the corner with Buddy McGirt, I've been in the corner with all kinds of fighters in the past in world title fighting, and I've been part of it, just helping out in the corner, but I've listened and learned along the way. Yeah. And I'm not one of them people who thinks you can't learn. You can always learn and you can always get better. There's a lot of trainers out there who don't, and they think that they know it all, and they talk a lot and they bluff their way through a lot. And I'm not saying I'm different as such, but you know, I am, and we are, and the lads are, and there's a way of doing things right. We've been around in all our lives, and all the trainers we've worked with have been top trainers. Some you disagree with some of the bits they did, but a lot of the stuff that they generally did right was right, and it's all common sense. And there's a lot of people in boxing trying to reinvent the wheel. They're trying to like them barmen who flip all the bottles and that, you know, just pour the drink. They're trying to blind you with all the bullshit and all the nonsense. And boxing hasn't really changed much in the last 100 years. The training methods haven't really changed that much. But nowadays it's all like pads and the hands behind the back and all this made with the shit and all that. And it's like, just stop everything. Basics. Yeah. The kid can't throw a jab. He's throwing a jab and he's got about 5 faults. Fix them. But they can't fix the faults because they don't know them themselves. They don't know what they're looking at themselves. They haven't got the experience. They haven't been through it. Or they've been through it and they've been taught in their gym, which wasn't really a good gym. It didn't really have good coaches. But then they're trying to get good kids and they're passing all them bad methods onto the kids, so the kids end up going downhill and wondering why they don't make it when they've given their life to a trainer who didn't really know his stuff. And if you've got a lot to pass on, then you should, without being big-headed. And I was sort of waiting for that perfect moment, so I've bit the bullet, and I've got involved with Jack. And then Liv Holmes, a girl who used to box with the Rotunda, she's turning pro now. She's 8-time wrestling champion. She's really good. She's been on GB for a few years and she's had enough of the amateurs. She wants to turn pro, so she gave me a call and asked me would I be interested in managing and training her. So I've got to try and guide her career now. We've just applied for a licence. It should be a formality. Hopefully her medicals go to plan and then everything's good, and then we'll try and get her busy and get her involved. But she's exciting. She's a good fighter. She's only 23, and I think she can go a long way in boxing if she really applies herself and stays disciplined. She'll be a good fighter. Again, she's a nice girl, so I've known since she was a kid through the Rotunda. She's been right through the Rotunda. She lives not far from me, and if I can help her, then I want to help her. So why not? My brother Stephen's a really good trainer. He's in the gym every day with his fighters. but we're basically together most days, so it's great. You know, if I have to go anywhere, then Stephen can look after my fights. If Stephen needs anything from me, I can look after his. Steve Clark, who I manage, Stephen trains him as well, so we are interlinked and we all help each other. And then John's in there with his fighters, John Gillies, he's got all his fighters in there, so we all help each other and bounce off each other. There's no ego, there's no competition, there's no, you know, fighting for ring space, or everyone just gets on well. It's a great atmosphere to go to work every day, because basically that's what it is. You know, we're in there 5 days a week and all bouncing off each other, and it's a good atmosphere.
Have you found that you being in the actual ring and the boxing side of things has helped you manage your fighters better from a business side?
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. I don't say you have to afford to be a good manager or trainer. I have this argument weekly on social media. I don't know why I do it. I'll probably get bored in the house and I think I'll just drop a little bomb and I'll just put a tweet in and I'll just sit there and wait for the replies to come in, and I'll go back. And sometimes I just see something and I can't help myself but reply and think, mate, what are you talking about? But the argument is, oh, you won't speak to me because I haven't boxed. And no, it's not that. It's not that at all. There's loads of people who haven't boxed whose opinions I respect massively because they've been around boxing all their life. But if you haven't boxed, you haven't been in a boxing gym, you haven't been near a professional boxing ring, don't tell me how to throw a punch. That's just my way of looking at it. And it's not that I don't accept your opinion. You're more than welcome to the opinion. I don't need to listen to it. I don't need to take it on board. You telling me about a fight, it'd be like me telling you about a tax return of finance. I don't know about it. So if I started talking to you, you'll know after 10 seconds if I'm talking shit or not. You'll know that if I know what I'm talking about within 10 seconds. You don't have to tell me that. You don't have to be rude and tell me that. I try not to be. But sometimes they say, you know, this is how it is, mate. Like, mate, it's not. Like, I've got the contract here. No, there's a rehydration clause. Mate, the contract's in front of me. There's no rehydration clause. There is. I've seen and they're arguing with you over something that
you know to be fact.
You know to be fact because it's there, or your brother's just done negotiations for it. You know what when the fight's happen and what weight it's going to be at, and they're arguing, saying, no, it's this. I've heard this. I'm telling you, there's what it is.
Yeah. Or you know how things work.
Yeah. Or others will argue technically over a shot. Well, he should have threw that shot there, or that was this type of shot. And you're like, it wasn't. Like, it was a right hand. No, it wasn't. It was, and then you're arguing. You're thinking, if you haven't boxed, like, why would you argue? I saw Joe Cole. Callum showed me at a podcast with Joe Cole. He's like, this football, and I think he thinks football is the only sport. Like, this football, because it's like the national sport. Everyone's done a bit. It's the same with boxing. You'll say something to him, and they go, no, it's not. He said, I look at it like this. If a fella comes around the house, a plumber, takes the lid off your cistern and goes, right, see that should be there, that should be there. No, it's not. And you're not going to tell him. And I got a laugh on that one as well. And I think, I'm laughing thinking, it's exactly right. But if I'm in a gym and a footballer's talking, I'm not name dropping, Carragher goes in the gym, Bradley Orr, ex-footballer, comes in the gym. I asked him a question about football. He say the answer, and I go, is it? He's right. Oh, okay. It must be. You're the pro.
Yeah,
you're the pro.
You'd know.
I've been going to match since I was 5, and that's the argument. Well, I've been watching boxing since I was 5. It's like, okay, no problem. I've been watching films since I was 5. I love films. I'm not an actor. I'm not a director. I couldn't dream of making one or doing one. I'm sitting not going to argue with a director over what shoot is better or what shot looks better than the light. Yeah. They know more than me. But maybe, I don't know whether I've got that attitude as I'd be embarrassed arguing with football over football.
Yeah.
I'd be embarrassed arguing with you over your industry. I'd be like, but they don't give a shit in this boxing. Some of them, and they're arguing with you till the blue in the face about something that they don't really know about, but they just, once they're in, they've got to keep the bluff going, keep shining.
Do you think there's an element of that on Saturday night with Dubois' dad and Don Charles?
Possibly. I like Don Charles, but I thought he let himself down to build up to this call and Usyk could cheat. Really? Like, what did he cheat? Because you hit him low and he took 5 minutes. He took 3 minutes of the 5 minutes that he's entitled to take. You try and get a punch, never mind the stomach, you try and get a punch right in your bladder, just below your belly button. Doesn't have to hit your balls, doesn't have to hit your seen someone, well, it wasn't in the testicles, so it wasn't a low blow, like me. It's called a groin guard, it's called a protector. There's a sponge up to, why do women wear them?
They don't have one. Yeah.
No,
well,
I
mean, they don't have.
They don't have a penis or testicles to be punched in, but they have a groin and they have a part that's below the belt line, which will be excruciating if they get punched in it. I've had one. You need the 5 minutes to recover or the 3 minutes, whatever you want to take. So because Usyk took 3 minutes, they were sort of slagging Usyk off, saying he's a cheat. Like,
You got whapped after that.
You got battered every round,
Yeah.
and the low blow, with all due respect, wasn't what you
a
thought
low
was a
blow.
body shot
Yeah.
was a low blow. There was another one the other night, same position.
Oh yeah, when he winked at him. Yeah.
But then I'm arguing with people on social media going, it was a low blow. It was a perfect legal shot. Like, it wasn't. And they're going, it was on the belt line. It wasn't. The saying is below the
definitely
belt.
wasn't, yeah.
Like, mate, below the belt isn't a saying just from boxing.
Yeah.
And the belt, you're putting up the elastic on the bottom, saying that's the belt. Like, the belt's there. If the belt is above your belly button, that's the navel line.
Yeah.
There's an imaginary line from the navel, which is the belt line. If the shot is above that, it's legal.
Legal, yeah.
If you're shorter above your belly button, then the shot is legal. If you're shorter below your belly button, which Usyk's were all night, and you could see it on all the pictures, then it's a low blow. If it touches the shorts, the referee calls you together before the fight. I'll give you my instructions in the dressing room. Watch your rabbit punches, watch your low blows. Don't punch them on the back of the head. If you get knocked down, go to the neutral corner. Keep your hands up, protect yourself at all time. He is good. These shorts are a bit low, so there's good. And he'll point to the line where you can't hit below.
I didn't know that. Okay.
I've got
Actually
the next
points to
fight
the
to
line.
see.
Yeah.
Told you in the dressing room these shorts are high, so there's good. Touch gloves, and that's it. They're the last instructions he gives. So the referee will tell you before the fight, if you hit a short, it's a foul. His shorts are high, so there's good. And he'll point to where it is on there, and like, get it, it's arguing. It wasn't his testicles, so it wasn't a low blow. So calling him a cheat, I think there was an element of that. The dad, I think there's always an element with fathers in boxing.
You think they've got no business being in the corner?
Wondering whether I should train him.
Yeah.
I've boxed, I am a trainer, I can manage, I can do what he's trying to do. So he's looking at it as a positive. I don't know whether I want to, because I don't know whether I want to play them lines between father and son. I'm his dad, and I love him, and I love him more than anything, but I don't want to be one of them ringing him every morning, what was your weight? What have you fucking been eating? You know, why weren't you in the gym? Or you're late, being tomorrow. I don't want to be his
Or
trainer.
worse, throwing in the towel.
Or worse, it's
Yeah.
bad enough watching him fight now. My nerves are gone. It's the hardest thing is watching him fight. Even when he's comfortable and he's winning, he's doing well. It's nerve wracking. It's horrible. I don't know how my dad did it before. I always say that to my dad now. Like, I don't know how he still does it now. But it's whether you want to play them lines. And them lines have definitely been played with, in my opinion, with Dubois, with how his dad is. And I look at him and I think he might have been, doesn't really want to be in there, doesn't really want to be fighting, because it doesn't look like that way to me. But I might be being harsh, but I think that's what you have to run the risk of doing. It can work out well. It worked out perfect with Joe Calzaghe and Enzo. God bless him, he died a few years ago, Enzo. He was a lovely fella, and they had a great relationship, and father and son from the start till the end, and he won everything in boxing. But it also goes wrong where you see fathers and sons not speaking to each other, like we've seen with Eubank, like we've seen with others.
of course.
It usually it goes wrong more than it goes right. I think in this case it went wrong. And Don Charles as a trainer is a good trainer. I like him, and as I said up until the other day, like, I never really had a bad word to say about him. I thought that was a bit harsh what he was saying. But if you're in the corner man's the boss. There's one voice in the corner. That's how it should always be. And if I've ever out with me brothers in the corner, Buddy's talking, Buddy talks. The minute he's quiet and he's about to give, and I've got like 5 seconds, Callum will usually look at me, look at Stephen and Lee and the other brothers, and I'll give 2 seconds of advice, like keep it up, or start stepping up a bit, or you're doing well, like just a bit of encouragement. And he'll stand up and he'll look out the ring to the other two, and he'll get, because he wants our opinion. But I don't speak over, but he's the boss. The cornerman's the boss. Same way, if our Stephen's a cornerman, he's the boss, he speaks. If he stops speaking, it goes really quiet. I can say something, I'll say something then, but usually, the cornerman's the boss. But you've seen it with, I think it was Fury's dad. I think you see it with the other night with Dubois. Eubank's definitely done it in the past. There's a lot of fighters and fathers that have done it, but if you're paying a cornerman and a trainer to train you and be your cornerman, just let him do his job. Yeah. I'm a big believer of that in boxing. There's so many people in boxing now.
It crosses into all sports, doesn't it? I think
I've
you
never
go back to knowing your lane.
so mmany nutritionists and strength coaches on pitches in boxing in the ring. Like, I don't know what you need to be in the ring for. You know what I mean? There's accountants on the end, no disrespect, and they're on the end of the picture like this. And it's like, mate, you look after his money. You don't need to be in the ring. And then like I've seen it 50 times over. I've watched this. It's a very first term professional. I've watched this since 2002, 2003, and there's a lawyer on the end, like this. Mate, you're a lawyer, just sit in the front row with your suit on, or like they're standing in the corner, and that's fine, I've got no problem with it. But then I watched the interview after the fight, and I can see everyone talking, and there's a big screen up there, and everyone's just talking. I can watch one of them on the screen. You look at the screen, next minute you just see some fella just come into
Slowly.
the shot like this. And he's leaning over watching, and you could just see, and then next minute he's got his phone out like, and he's shouting like that on the phone, and you think like, but that happens if the fighter loses as well. It's like, mate, it's not the place. This is not the place to be. Dressing rooms are funny. You see it in dressing rooms. I'm saying this half tongue in cheek. Nutritionists do a brilliant job. Strength coaches do a brilliant job. But a lot of them, like a lot of the time, it's like there's just someone will start as a lawyer, give him 2 years. He's in the corner. He's in the corner giving the water. Someone will start as a nutritionist, and within a year and a half time, he's got the corner. He's in the towel in the corner, waving the fighter off, or he's standing pulling the fighter's shorts out like this. You know what I mean? And it's like, just let the team, everyone do the job. If you're a lawyer, be the best lawyer you can be for the fighter, and the fighter's going to get well. If you're an accountant, be the best accountant you can be for the fighter. Look after the fighter's money. Strength coach, be the best strength coach you can be. Boxing coach, running coach, assistants, whatever you are. Do your job the best you can do it, and that fighter's going to be better. If you start doing his job, you start doing their job, you start doing his job, it's going to cause chaos for the fighter.
Stick to your lane.
It's the fighters. Like, I've seen it happen a few times in our dressing room. Proper pissed me off where there's people in there who shouldn't be in there. And you think like, why are you in here? You're a guest of him. You're a guest of his. You're like, this is work time now. If he loses, none of you are going to be in here. No. He's going to be in here taking his boots off with us, or with his bird, or with his ma, or with his dad, or whoever it might be. He's all in the way, like, and I've seen a few times. One of my brothers, Liam's done it. Now everyone listens to Liam, obviously. Once he starts, that's it. But others and coaches, right? Anyone who hasn't got a job, wish you good luck, and then go to your seats. You know, we need to work now. Otherwise, the fight doesn't happen. And there's a lot of people that do that in boxing. It's one of the worst or the best sports for it, whatever way you want to look at it. And listen, it happens. I get it. I know why. I used to carry the flag in for the Khiatan on his fights and be buzzing, being in the ring and being part of it. But I was part of the team, and it'd be like, are you coming to Vegas? Yeah, I'm coming to Vegas. Got to Vegas, there was no flag. I was like, well, where's the flag? When Ricky Hatton fought Costa Zoo, they had the British flag and the English flag, and they had an Australian flag and a Russian flag. Russell Crowe was carrying an Australian flag, and they were like, who's carrying ours? I went, me, give me that. I'm walking the ring, and I'm standing on one side and behind Ricky and all the lads with the flag, and there's a ring car girl with the other one, and then Russell Crowe's over there with the Aussie flag, and it was great. And I asked him for a picture after it. Got a picture the next morning. He got nicked in New York for throwing the phone at someone, literally with the same coat on. And I'm sitting talking to him. I'd fought the night before. He opened my jacket and got a bottle of butter. Do you want one of them? Like, bit it off and give him his sitting out having a drink. The next day he got nicked. When we got to Vegas, there was no flag. I thought, fuck this, I'll come all over here. I said, I went in the kitchen, or the cleaning cupboard, got a mop out, just snapped the end of the mop out, and then took the flag off the wall, taped it around and walked in the ring. I've done the blagging bit myself. I've got nothing against it. That's what I'm laughing at. I've got nothing against it. I've done it myself. If you watch that fight, he fought one year angle. There's all the white tape on the top.
Okay, look at that.
Kerry Keys was laughing his head off at me in the corner. I'm just standing with this flag, just letting on to everyone in the middle of Vegas. I thought, fuck that. I'm not getting in the ring. I've come over to all the way. Part of the team. I'm not sitting in the crowd like everyone else. I get it, but sometimes, you know, there's a line that's got to be drawn in boxing. If everyone just sticks to their job, the fighter's going to benefit and be better for it. That's ultimately the most important thing. There's a bit of fun. There's a bit of, you know, I get it, but it's happened a lot in boxing recently.
So you've so obviously that's obviously a good memory from boxing. So from all the fights you've had and all the experiences you had, what's your best one?
Probably winning the British title. Probably winning it for the second time. I said this, I don't really take much pride in winning it twice because I shouldn't have lost in the first place, but I did lose it. So winning it back was nice. For me, a lot of the things I grew up, my goal was to be ABA champion, win the senior ABAs, and I won it. And it took a lot of beating. I won a silver medal in the Commonwealth Games. I won the ABAs in the April. I won the Commonwealth Games silver. I got a silver in the Games in August 2nd. And it was an unbelievable feeling, but didn't really beat that ABAs, just to become senior ABA champion as an amateur. Winning the British definitely beat that for me, and I fell short just in the world title, but I felt like I won it, and that would have been obviously the best feeling in my life. And it is a good feeling knowing that I felt like I won the fight, and many others felt like I won, and I felt like I did enough. But winning the British, seeing my brothers win their world titles, seeing my brothers also win the British titles, and I've got far too many good memories to talk about. There's been a lot of shit ones as well, but mainly far more good than bad. But yeah, probably that feeling of winning the British title for the first time, that was a brilliant feeling. I always wanted that Lonsdale belt in ours.
Yeah.
I know my dad wanted it. I know my dad's watched his mates doing it. He's probably never imagined that his lads would do it. And in the end, all 4 of us won it. Yeah. And again, I seen Liam doing a little talk on his podcast the other day. He said, like, winning the British title, he said, we had 3 in our house at the one time. And Callum couldn't win it because I had it. I vacated it and Callum won it straight away, so the 4 of us all became British champion. He said, and Tommy Coyle and Luke Campbell were fighting to be the first ever British champion from Hull, because they hadn't had one, the whole city hadn't had one. That's a bit of the difference with Liverpool as well. Like, you win a British title and they're like, that is right, lad, well done. It's been 30 odd others. Or you win a world title, first world title in 23 years, and they're like, oh, well done. Yeah, Paul Hogginson and John Conte had that, didn't he? Like, It's like there's other cities like where they haven't had any championships or from the city because of, but that's Liverpool for you, just a proper good, successful sporting city where full of people. And listen, they wish you well, they definitely wish you well, they don't put you down, but it's like, oh, that's right, lad, well done. Yeah, he's done that as well. There's so many there's so many to follow. So like, I feel sorry for my lad now. My lad won his his national title. It was like, oh, well done, lad, won a national title. To him, it's like, a national champion. He's like, yeah, your dad's and you put this 30 odds in between them. Yeah, well done.
Imagine, to be fair, your Paul's got quite a lot to live up to, hasn't he? So
yeah, but I think it'll help him in the long run. I was talking with fighters who will look after, like, for me, I'm big on your bare minimums, your standards. If you're in a gym surrounded by top fighters, your minimum standards raise, and how much you've got to put in per session, because you're looking on that bag and they're there or that bag and they're there, your standard raise, and your standards naturally rise. So you don't accept the shitty sessions, or you don't accept the bad work or the laziness, or because your standards have raised. His standards are high from day one, so he knows what he's got to do just to fit in and just to get there. So his standards will always be higher, and it'll always make him a better fighter and help him achieve more of his goals, because his goals are high, his aims are high. If he wants to even just keep up with his uncles and his half, he's got to raise his game, which I think he can and will do. He's already doing it. He's boxed for England, he's won a national title. I'm delighted for him, because I wasn't expecting it to be as early as it was. I was thinking it's probably going to be the senior, but he's done it, and he's done them both, and now he wants more, obviously, and he's got his goals, and they're realistic and they're ambitious, but they're realistic, and they're definitely attainable if he works hard. But he knows also, again, through watching us, you get nowhere without working hard, and you get nowhere without putting the effort in. And if you don't put the work in, you're not going to get the results. And he definitely puts the results in. I look at pictures of him when he was about 9 or 10, and we laugh and I say, fucking hell, you were a little tank, weren't you? Like, I didn't know. Like, I didn't ever think he was like a bit chunky or a bit heavy, and he laughs, he goes, it was, wasn't he? And we joke, and he's got a brilliant sense of humour. Being around boxing and the lads all his life, he's more comfortable around all people our age, and he'll laugh and take the piss out of you and take the piss out of himself. I said, look how hard you've worked, though, lad, from where you started and when you very first started boxing. And there's pictures of him with Callum's belt when he's in the ring, and he's got little cheeks on him, and he's laughing and he's smiling, going, and then you look at him now and the shape he's in. He's on holiday with his mates now. He's gone on his first lads holiday. I've been fucking terrified all week. Just didn't want to tell him. Being nervous, watching the phone every night, text him, you home yet, lad? He's like, Dad, I'm on holiday, fucking leave me alone. I'm like, okay, sorry, son, you're home, lad? And he's like, yeah, the boss night, Dad, everything's sad. I'm like, okay, good. He's on holiday. I'm like, have you had a bevy? He's like, no. Like, he doesn't drink. And I'm made up with him, buzzing. I mean, he might have a couple. I'm not bothered if he does, but he's not a drinker. He's dedicated.
Focused,
He's focused and dedicated. I think he reads a lot. He reads a lot of stuff. He's clever as anything. He's just done his A-levels. He did like biology, and he's constantly telling me about things, and I'll mention something about like rehydration or something. Like, oh yeah, it's because this with your cells, and he give me the proper scientific definition, explanation of it. He's really clever. He's switched on like his ma, and it'll help him. But he's dedicated. He knows that talent's not enough. The name he's got's not enough. The club he boxed for is not enough. You've got to work. You've got to really work. But it's in him now. So
he's got good teachers, hasn't he? So,
yeah, he's got good guidance, good teachers, and that'll help him a lot. It will. It's a lot of pressure, and it's a double-edged sword for all the pressure that he's getting, for all the maybe. There's a couple of bitter judges who mightn't like what we did or mightn't like us, and it's going against him, and he's had a few dodgy ones, but he's had one or two where it might have gone his way, so it probably balances itself out. But for all of that, he's obviously got brilliant guidance, good advice, good examples, more importantly. It's all right saying it. It's like, well, there's proof of what we did, and there's when we did this, we did right. When we did that, we did wrong. We lost that fight because of that. He lost that fight because of that. Don't do that. So you learn from the good and the bad always, and he's got hopefully good examples.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you left a great legacy, haven't you? The whole family, you know, over the city and for yourself. Yeah. It's crazy, isn't it?
It's hard to say because it does. Obviously, it sounds like you're bragging, but it'll probably never be done again. I say probably. I can't.
No, you can't guarantee it, but
I don't think you're four brothers daft enough to box. Never mind. We've said that before. But if they do box again, and there is four of them, then good luck to them. But it's our game, and it's just. I laugh with my man and Dan. I always say, like, I can't believe, like, they're 4 lads under 8, and we were wild as well. We were down the bend, and just Tito's on our end, fighting with each other, gloves in the house, fighting all the time. Liam especially, Liam was round the bend. Liam was nuts, but 4 lads under 8, like, it must have been hard for them at the time, in a way, like, keeping their hands full. We had 2 sets of bunk beds in the room. There's a big hole in the ceiling where we used to jump from the bunk beds to do the one back. I remember the fall, but it was great. It was brilliant and good memories. But yeah, like what's happened in the boxing, it may not be sort of recognised later on. Liam laughs. He goes, "I'm seeing fucking murals all over the city. But everyone said there's nothing of us." There's an old phone box by the rotunda, and someone vandalised it and do glasses on Liam. So it's just like,
that's it.
Yeah, glass. But it's not for us to say. It's not for us to ask for any of that. Certainly, like we wouldn't be as embarrassing as asking for any type of praise or recognition for it. It's up to people and it's up to others. But you know, we never started it for that. We never done it for that. We never do. We never have. It's not for recognition as such. It's just the time to be the best we could be. So it's selfish in a way, but we just wanted to be the best we could be, not technically for any recognition or awards or anything like that. It's not for that.
We've definitely shown that, mate, I think so.
Are there any like business or financial decisions that you would have done differently, or that you put on you?
Everyone from my first purse to probably my 35th purse, yeah. I had my first fight. I got £3 for it, and I got about 1,200 quid in commission from tickets, and bought a bulldog.
Thanks, Paul. It was an absolute pleasure, my friend. Good luck with
you,
the
mate.
coaching and the management and everything else. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.